We are back on the Pokeathlon server, and we're also back with another Fake Mons analysis today, and we'll be diving into Pokemon Infinity today. Now, the setting of the Pokemon Infinity games take place in a non-canon region called the Echo region. Unlike the mainline regions of Alola, Gala, and Paldea, the Echo region has come equipped with its own regional variants. Today I'll be taking a look at these custom regional variants and how they compare to their original forms, maybe sprinkle some knowledge on whether they find themselves viable in the Chaos OU format or not. And before we get into everything, subscribe to the channel, join the kingdom, we're on our way to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, and I thank you guys for all of the support. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first regional variants we're going to be going over in terms of Pokemon Infinity are the Kanto starters. Now I'll tell you now, there's the Kanto regional variants of the starters, and there's also the Johto regional variants of the starters. So going to be doing this in some sort of, category sort of order thing going on here. So I'm going to be looking over the Kanto starters. Now I'll tell you guys, this is the second take I'm making of this video because, to be honest, I made the video and I was like, yeah, like, I would prefer to just redo it. I feel like I can do a lot better in terms of organizing the video and such. But either way, let's begin looking at Venusaur and Venusaur Echo. Now, we all know what typical Venusaur is. Venusaur has kinda, throughout the years, at least in the lower tiers, been a decent offensive and defensive threat, whether it's been DPP UU, Black White, OU with the Sunban, and Venusaur fell to obscurity because of that. And then even in tiers like Gen 6 RU, even was Venusaur in Gen 7 NU? I don't even remember, to be honest. But Venusaur has always been a decent lower tier Pokemon, and obviously has initial Sun. But the Echo variant, kind of subverts that sort of expectation. It's still a somewhat slow, bulky attacker, but instead of being a special attacker, is more leaning into its physical, attributes here. As you can see, it has a much higher attack stat than regular Venusaur with 111 attack. It has 15 less speed, but it also, gets more physical defense as well. Like, it's still relatively a bulky Pokemon. 80 HP is, like, average, and then, like, 88 special defense is not too bad. And then, you have 100 defense, which is actually pretty alright. So yeah, it has a Grass Rock typing, and that's some interesting abilities. Solid Rock is always going to be a useful ability to have, especially when you're Rock type in general. So, being able to cut down your the damage of your weaknesses is quite good. Even though Grass Rock is probably the best synergy-wise defensively, if you were to combine these two types together, get rid of the Poison weakness, you get rid of the Flying weakness, you also get rid of the Fire weakness as well. So pretty much 3 out of 5 of Grass's weaknesses are just cancelled out by Rock, and then obviously Rock appreciates grass, cancelling out water, ground, doesn't cancel out steel, to be honest. I'm trying to remember my type, attributes here. But regardless, yeah, Solid Rock, pretty solid ability. And then we have Sandstream. So it is the Sandstream set. Unfortunately, it's not really having much of a niche in OU because, we have other Sandstream Pokemon like Raikou Supra with, Raikou stats plus Sandstream. We got some other mons that are chilling in Chaos UU like Escartrus and even Delta Avalugg. So yeah, Echo Venusaur doesn't really have much of a niche in Chaos OU or UU. But, at the end of the day, the priority is comparing both the original forms and the Echo variants. So either way, let's look at the move pool real quick. It does have an interesting move called Cactus Smash from Pokemon Infinity, and I believe it's one of the few Pokemon that get that. The only other ones are Digimon like Lilymon and Togemon here. But yeah, Cactus Smash, basically almost a signature move. 115 base power, 33% recall. It is stronger than, well, I was going to say stronger than Woodhammer. I'm tweaking. It's not stronger than Woodhammer, but it does have a 35% chance to poison, which is actually a decently high secondary effect. Like, imagine Scald and the fact that Scald burns feel so frequent, having a higher percentage of inflicting status like that's pretty crazy in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, it's a rock type, so it's gonna have access to Stealth Rocks. No spikes though, but Stealth Rock is fine. It has some decent utility in knockoff, and to be fair, special attack stat is not bad. So you could still lean into the special side. You have Stab, Loose Storm, no Rock Stab though, but special rock moves have never really been that common anyway. So would even lean into that aspect. You still get pretty solid moves like Fire Blast in order to target Steel type for super effective damage alongside Earth Power, and you still have Sludge Bomb reminiscent of your original form's Poison typing. But either way, yeah, if I was to run this thing, I don't even know what I'd run. Like, genuinely, this one is not good in Chaos OU or UU, but in terms of if I had to run that stuff, doesn't even get recovery too, so that's kind of annoying, I'll be honest. But I guess lean into the special side more. You have Giga Drain for longevity here, Knockoff, Leech Seed, just be an annoying defensive Pokemon. at least like you're not too passive, and then have like rocks or something if you don't have a rocker. But yeah, special defense actually does seem not too bad because of the fact that you're a rock type, so you're getting that 50% special defense boost in sand. So this is base 88, you get to like 302, I believe. So yeah, 302, you times that by 1.5, you get 453 special defense, so it's not actually that bad. But yeah, overall, Venusaur, I mean, generally regular Venusaur is going to be the better Pokemon, your Sun Sweeper, you know, generally, and then this one is just all right. But at least design wise, I actually do like it a lot. The shiny is also pretty nice as well. But yeah, moving on to Charizard, and you know, Charizard, the Pokemon Company's fan favorite, the most overrated Pokemon of all time. Its Echo form basically kind of keeps its same identity as you know, well, back in the day Charizard was considered fast, but you know, Echo Charizard still kind of keeps that identity. It has even more speed and more special attack, but instead of a fire flying typing, which has, you know, been a thorn in Charizard's side in, you know, a post Stealth Rock generation, you know, you have a fire dragon typing, and you also get the benefits of, you know, the flying typing via levitate, giving you that ground immunity. So yeah, it does also have some pretty decent other abilities as well. Competitive is quite situational, but not a bad ability. Then you have Intimidate as well, but as you can see by this bulk, you're not using this as a defensive Pokemon, so Levitate is your go-to ability here. And in terms of its shiny, takes inspiration from, you know, Dragon Ball Z and Chinese dragons, so you gotta appreciate the effort that they've gone into designing these regional variants, because like, to be fair, the Alolan forms, Galarian forms, the Paldean forms, they kind of still, you know, make the Pokemon look like one-to-one in terms of design, but some of these are, you know, kind of going more out. Like, not to say those regional forms have no effort put into them, but you know, like I am making this video because I think the Echo regional forms have a lot of personality to them, and I want you guys to know what Pokemon Infinity has done with them. But either way, let's get back into looking at Echo Charizard here. And to be fair, this one is currently sitting in Chaos UU, but the council, we kind of like thought to ourselves, maybe we could drop this thing. But at this point, Chaos UU is not really seeing too much play, so we can't really determine if Charizard Echo is really up to snuff or not. But it's still like 114 speed, 114 special attack is not bad. So, you know, you have to, you know, we have to see if this one has the potential or not. But either way, mainly a special attacker, has Dragon Fire coverage, which you can't really complain about. You're also a Dragon, not weak to Fairy, and to be fair, you only have your rock and dragon weakness to worry about because you have that ground immunity, so it's actually not too bad. Defensively, Charizard Echo is doing quite well, and obviously this is a lot better Pokemon than Charizard in general. Like, you're just faster and stronger, and you have a better offensive typing, to be fair. So yeah, in terms of setup, Charizard wishes it had Calm Mind, at least in the lower tiers, because again, this thing is sitting in like ZU in Gen 9, and obviously it still to this day doesn't have any special setting up options. But this actually has Calm Mind, which means it's going to actually be a pretty decent sweeper in terms of that, if it wants to go down that route. In terms of his other moves, to be fair, Dragon Fire does get the job done. Obviously, you have Focus Blast as well, so you could do that. Or Hidden Power in terms of Natdex formats. You can obviously just run Hidden Power Grass to hit opposing water types for super effective damage. But again, you have Draco Meteor as your strongest stab option, so it's not actually that bad. You could honestly just go dual stabs plus Roost. Funny enough, this thing does keep Roost, even though it's not a flying type. So yeah, Charizard Echo is a pretty good improvement from Charizard in terms of competitive viability. And the fact that it is, you know, has the potential to survive in Chaos UU. And if you look at Chaos UU, there are some demons in this tier still. Like, you know, things like Urshifu Rapid Strike, Palafin, like just really powerful Pokemon that otherwise would be in Ubers in like the mainline formats, you know, OU or Natdex OU as well, even Natdex Ubers and Ubers respectively. Yeah. Like, Charizard Echo is a massive improvement on Charizard. And finally, we got Blastoise here. And to be fair, it's tough for me to say whether Blastoise Echo is better than Charizard Echo, but to be fair, I would say Blastoise is probably the best, because this is consistently going to be staying Chaos UU while we were still debating Charizard Echo's, you know, position in the tier. But yeah, Blastoise Echo, most similar to, well, to be fair, I feel Charizard is more similar to its original form, but to be fair, Blastoise is second in line, so it's not too far. It's still a defensive sort of Pokemon, but you're a lot faster and you're a lot stronger as well, which is pretty nice. But the main appeal to using Blastoise Echo in Chaos UU, for example, is the fact that it's able to set rain. Now, we've still got some rain demons in Chaos UU. For example, in terms of Swift Swim Mons, we got Swampert Mega Swampert, Daikatuna, which is from I think it's from Infinity or Uranium, can't really remember the game. And then we have Kablowfish as well. Like, we still have some pretty powerful Rain Sweepers that are available to use in Chaos UU. Even Barraskewda, like these guys in RU as well, still decently threatening. And Blastoise Echo is the main range setter in Chaos UU. So yeah, that's his main niche. So as you can see with its abilities, it also has Snow Warning, but Snow, again, isn't really the strongest weather in the Chaos formats because Light Clay is banned. And this thing also doesn't get Aurora Veil either because, you know, it's from a fan-made game in Gen 6 and Aurora Veil is a Gen 7 move. So yeah, in terms of what this mon does, is kind of upgrade to Pelipper in some ways. You're slightly weaker, but again, that speed tier and much higher special defense stat means that you kind of fill in a different position that Pelipper could never really do. You also have pivoting with Volt Switch, you got Defog, you have Roost. You pretty much have all the moves that Pelipper has other than like Volt Switch, but to be fair, Pelipper gets U-turn, so you still get access to that pivoting sort of option. But yeah, typically I've been running max HP, max defense just to maximize that physical bulk. And again, Blastoise is not a frail Pokemon by any means. And Water Flying is not a bad typing defensively either. Like, you only come with 2 weaknesses. To be fair, the Rock weakness is kind of bad. To be fair, especially when you're not running heavy duty boots. But, you know, you can easily just play around your electric weakness as well. Again, like I said, Mega Swampert, a Swift Swim one with a ground typing. You know, you can obviously play around that. And you still have naturally good special defense as well. Unlike Pelipper, like, you would go Fizz Death Pelipper, and that shit is not taking special moves well whatsoever. But, you know, Blastoise Echo is able to do that. But overall, the Kanto starters, their regional variants, most of them are, I mean, Charizard and Blastoise are pretty solid. Venusaur is kind of, you know, lacking behind in terms of Chaos viability, but regardless, design wise, I think they're pretty solid as well. And you know, that sometimes design just matters more than actually caring about competitive viability, because again, these fan-made games like Infinity, Uranium and that, they weren't made for competitive Pokemon in mind. It's obviously people want to make some pretty cool designs in their own fan games. But yeah, I like these ones quite a lot. Like I said, with the Kanto starters, the Johto starters also have their access to their Eggco forms in Pokemon Infinity. So let us begin with Meganium here. Now, Meganium Eggco, massive improvement. Like, I don't even think massive is enough to even describe how much better Meganium Eggco is than its original Johto form. In terms of the stats, typing, move pool, well, to be fair, the move pool is somewhat similar, but it really comes down to typing and stats above all else. And yeah, Meganium Eggco, and ability too. Meganium practically has no abilities because, you know, Overgrow and Leaf Guard. Leaf Guard's pretty useless, and Overgrow is quite situational on a mon that has no offensive stats to speak of. But Meganium Eggco just fully goes into that defensive role that Meganium was intended for, to be honest. Even though, like, arguably Venusaur has been a better defensive threat than Meganium across the lower tiers, but, you know, that's just the sad reality of it. But yeah, 143 HP, massive HP stat here, almost at 500 HP, and it is just a completely min-maxed defensive threat. High HP, pretty solid defenses. Like, you see a mon like Drifblim or pretty much any other mon with high HP, the defenses are pretty much like less than a quarter of their HP, but this thing has 83 defense and 100 per def, so it's very, very bulky. It has no attack either, and it still comes out with a special attack stat that's even higher than Meganium's. Like, so you hit harder and you're much more defensive than Meganium. It is a win-win situation at all times, to be fair. And you also come with one of the best defensive abilities in the game, if not the best defensive ability in the game, in Regenerator. So the longevity of Meganium Eggco cannot be understated whatsoever. But yeah, even the move pool is slightly better. Like, Meganium does not get Sleep Powder, and to be fair, we banned Sleep from Chaos OU, so this is irrelevant. But at the same time, Meganium does not have access to Sleep Powder, but this having Sleep Powder was quite relevant before you know, the Sleep Bad came in. And obviously a mon of this caliber and bulk is chilling in Chaos UU, and we have no intentions of even dropping it anywhere near Chaos RU whatsoever. But yeah, in terms of the moves, it pretty much just does the same thing as like regular Meganium in terms of if you want to do Leech Seed, you want to run Giga Drain, even has a Calm Mindset. But to be fair, even Mega Meganium outclasses this in terms of the Calm Mindset, because, you know, it has a higher special attack stat, I'm pretty sure. But, you know, this thing pretty much just leans 100% into its defensive profile. It has a lot of really cool moves. Dragon Tail for pivoting like regular Meganium, Aromatherapy. Like, it's just a complete upgrade to Meganium, and you know, I'm happy that they made Meganium, which has pretty much been the worst starter since Generation 2. And I'm pretty sure when Gen 10 comes out, all of those starters are still going to be better than Meganium. The fact that they made the worst starter into probably one of the better ones in the Chaos formats. You know, you have to appreciate that a whole lot, to be honest. But yeah, much needed improvement. But yeah, moving on to Typhlosion again. I won't speak too much about Typhlosion. I made an entire video on Typhlosion and him, whether Typhlosion can beat the allegations or not. And we did cover Typhlosion Echo here. And unfortunately, it is the worst out of these starters by quite a mile. It's not even close. Like, for Alligator, we'll speak about that guy soon. But yeah, this Meganium clears this very easily. I don't know what their intention was with Echo Typhlosion. I really don't know. To be fair, you don't get Typhlosion signature eruption. You have arguably a worse defensive typing. The special attack stat is very high. Like I said, like this thing has 120 special attack, 97 speed, but regular Typhlosion is arguably a better Pokemon just because it has that eruption. It can be a much more threatening wall breaker. And yeah, I really don't know what the plan was with this guy. Like in terms of, at least the design is cool. You have to rate the design. Even the shiny colors are quite nice as well. You lean into that sort of reddish Typhlosion that its shiny color had back in Generation 2. But yeah, nah, this is obviously like the worst starter here. Like again, I said I'm not speaking too much about this guy. But yeah, regular Typhlosion kind of clears. No eruption is really, really bad for this guy. But at least it has defog. Can't complain about that. It has defog and it has stealth rocks too. So I guess it like fills a different niche than the other Typhlosions, but it is the worst of the Typhlosions, so what can I say? But yeah, moving on to Feraligatr. Now, Echo Feraligatr is the best of the Johto Echo starters. This mon is a solid OU threat in Chaos OU, and arguably could be a ban-worthy Pokemon as well. But yeah, what does Feraligatr Echo have that makes it such a menace in Chaos OU? Now, it has 121 speed, which, you know, is pretty fast by Gen 9 standards, and a pretty decent attack stat of a special attack stat of 103. But, you know, stats don't mean everything. You have to have the moves to back it up and potentially the ability. Now, in terms of abilities, it has probably the best ability you could have ever asked for in Speed Boost. So, you know, it makes a faster Pokemon even faster. And in terms of move pool, well, it has set up options on the special side, aka Nasty Plot. So, obviously, you set up a Nasty Plot and then your speed continues to increase. And then when your speed continues to increase, you're just harder to revenge kill. And at +2, you're still hitting pretty hard, even with a decent special attack stat of 103. So you have Water Poison Stab. You know, Hydro Pump is a high base power stab, and you also have access to Sludge Wave, which is no slouch into damage department either. Now, the issue with Feraligatr Echo that it finds in Chaos OU is coverage issues. Because, you know, you run, like, Water Poison fighting, you can't hit things like Dragapult or any other bulky Pokemon. Like, it just always struggles with coverage issues. Like, you always probably want Focus Blast or Fire Blast in order to hit, like, the Steel types that, you know, resist water somehow, like Magnezone Echo. Like, if you don't have Fire Blast, that mon's gonna wall you forever and, you know, do a lot of damage to you. And yeah, like, most of the time, if you get the right matchup and you have the right moves on Feraligatr Echo, it's a really scary Pokemon. But if you don't, then, like, you have that one Pokemon that can actually wall it, then it's pretty easy to stop. But regardless, this is a Pokemon that has to be respected in the Chaos OU metagame at all times. And in terms of its shiny colors, quite nice, though I do prefer the greenish color, like the teal color. Again, green's my favorite color, and I like, you know, the color combination like that. But yeah, in terms of his moves, I mean, items, it obviously can run Z moves, and Z moves, again, quite a controversial thing to have in such a high level power level format like Chaos OU. It has Life Orb, it has to be honest, it could run Choco Berry to reduce his ground weakness, but at the same time, this mon, you see this mon's bulk, it doesn't have any. So, you know, you might as well just go for maximum damage, whether with a Life Orb or Z move and whatnot. But yeah, overall, the Johto starters, if you go pound for pound with the Kanto starters, I do think, it's tough to say, because Feraligatr Echo and, you know, none of the Kanto Echo Pokemon are in Chaos OU, so Feraligatr is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And to be fair, Meganium Echo is solidly UU as well, the same as Blastoise Echo. Yeah, I think the Johto starters on the Echo side are better than the Kanto ones, but Typhlosion, this is a stinker. I can't lie to you, man. It is a massive stinker. So now we got those group of starters out of the way, we're going to be going over the rest of the Echo Pokemon, at least the fully evolved ones. Don't expect me to be covering Charmeleon Echo, bro. We're not doing that. But yeah, the first Pokemon I want to talk about in terms of the Echo Pokemon as well, we got Altaria Echo versus Altaria. Now, Altaria Echo, you know, this is a massive, again, another massive improvement as a Pokemon from, you know, regular Altaria. Again, this has never been a particularly impressive Pokemon by any means, even in its debut generation. I don't even know what tier Altaria is in Gen 3. Is it a UU Mon? Really don't know. But regardless, Altaria Echo, instead of a Dragon Flying typing, it does have a Dragon Ice typing, so it is LARPing as Kyurem, but it is actually a lot more interesting than Kyurem as a general Pokemon. Now, this has 95 special attack and 105 speed, and you're probably thinking the rest of the stats are, you know, not really doing too much. Like 90 defense is fine with 80 HP, but the special defense stat is pretty lacking. But what this thing has is Contrary plus Draco Meteor. That makes it a massive threat, because you're spamming this really strong Dragon stab option, and then you double your special attack each time. And to be fair, you actually do come with quite a good amount of coverage. You get Ice Beam and Freeze Dry, obviously, so you know, you'll run Freeze Dry, you have Focus Blast and Earth Power to hit Steel types. And to be fair, this is quite a threatening Pokemon, I'm not gonna lie. Either you go like Freeze Dry, Ice Beam, or just run both of the ways of hitting Steel types. Focus Blast for, you know, the Steel types that are immune to ground, like Steel Flying types, Celesteela, Corviknight, etc., Skarmory, and then Earth Power for things like Heatran as well. You can obviously hit that for 4 times super effective. But yeah, Altaria Echo, very dangerous Pokemon. Typically, heavy duty boots. You could go Z move, obviously. Like, you click one Draco Meteor, you have a +2 attack. This thing actually does have a somewhat of a niche in OU, though no one's really using it like that, but it is quite a threatening Pokemon, especially you know, having a doubled special attack stat. And to be fair, 95 is not the worst in the world, but yeah, obviously this one is chilling and kills UU quite comfortably, and yeah, we would not want to see this one drop down any further than it needs to be. Now, Azumarill Echo here, pretty similar to Azumarill. To be fair, they're both in the same tier, and I don't think there's much of a difference between the two. Arguably, the original Azumarill has a much better defensive typing, but offensively, Rock Fighting has been historically a pretty strong typing to have. We've seen Terrakion in Gen 5 and Gen 6, for example. So, yeah, it also gets access to huge power like its, you know, original form, but it does have much better stats. Like, in terms of where the stats are allocated, 80 attack plus huge power, like that is ridiculous. Now you see Azu's attack stat here, 50, like it's pretty bad. Like without with Adamant Nature you get to 218, with Adamant Nature here you get to 284, so you're pretty much getting a 568 attack after huge power versus Azumarill only getting 436. As you can see, that's a massive freaking difference, if I do say so myself. You're also a lot faster than Azumarill, but you're much less bulkier, so you know, give and take. And to be fair, Rock Fighting defensively also isn't really good either. Weak to fighting, weak to ground, weak to psychic, weak to water, weak to grass. Like, the typing's doing you no favors. Weak to steel as well, but at the same time you're a lot more offensively threatening than Azumarill. So yeah, either way, what does this one have access to? As you can see, Accelerock here, pretty big one to have. Does not get Belly Drum like regular Azumarill, and to be fair, this one will be kind of crazy with Belly Drum, I'll be honest, but it does have access to Bulk Up as you know, we are boosting its attack even further, and obviously it will boost its defenses, which, you know, would be much appreciated because its defensive typing is a lot worse now. But yeah, doesn't get CC either. Again, I kind of like the fact that they kind of kept this within limits. Like, you're not giving this thing the strongest, you know, stabs on each side. I think it does get Stone Edge, which to be fair is Stone Edge, and you might just miss that 1 or 2 times, but you know, you still get superpower as well. But Drain Punch gives you longevity. Knockoff is a pretty nice move to have. And then yeah, this could be a pretty bulky attack. You might not even need maximum attack investment because it could be overkill. Again, you have an ability that doubles your attack stat. You could invest more into the bulk, because the HP is always good. Azumarill's HP is 100, and 100 HP will always be pretty good. You could obviously lean more into the special defensive side, like more HP investment. Again, these are some arbitrary EV numbers. Again, I'm just playing with the sliders because I can, innit? But you know, like, go more specially defensive bulk up set, and yeah, this one could be very dangerous. You have stab priority as well, can't really complain about that. In terms of anything else that this mon is capable of doing, honestly, I saw a pretty funny set. You have Loaded Dice as an item in Gen 9 now, so realistically you could go Loaded Dice Rock Blast, and that could be doing a lot of damage. Again, like, you're probably thinking, why just not run Stone Edge? Well, if Rock Blast hits 5 times, it's stronger than Stone Edge and has more accuracy. Why would I not use Rock Blast? But at the same time, I basically have to lock into Loaded Dice in order to use Rock Blast effectively, so, you know, give and take. But overall, yeah, I like how they kind of kept Azumarill. They didn't make it worse, and they didn't necessarily make it super better. Like, they're pretty even in terms of how good they are, like in general, to be honest. Not even like as a Chaos UU niche, but like just in general, they competitively have similar viability level. And obviously the shiny here pays homage to regular Azumarill, and I do like the blue that they used here a lot. So yeah, Azumarill Echo is a pretty solid Pokemon. Okay, guys, I won't spend too much on these guys because, again, in a previous Fake Mons analysis video, I did go over Chansey Echo, the Mon with pretty much the highest stat that at the time in Chaos OU with 250 attack. We've unfortunately dropped Chansey Echo to UU because pretty much outside of Trick Room, it's still like pretty much a glass cannon and pretty hard to use in practice, to be fair. But Blissey Echo, this is a Pokemon that could not even see the light of day in Chaos OU whatsoever. Like, that 25 speed difference, like, makes a massive difference. This thing can actually go Choice Scarf with a maximum attack and actually outspeed some shit. So yeah, this one will never see Chaos OU ever. But like, it's still relatively a glass cannon, but you still have 135 HP, 55 defense. Like, you're not getting O-code on the physical side, which is the massive issue here, and you actually have a usable speed tier, so you can actually scarf the thing. So yeah, Blissey Echo not seeing the light of day. But yeah, these guys are just pretty fat attackers, very high attack stats, and yeah, they're quite dangerous Pokemon. But yeah, not going to spend too much time on them. Their role compared to their original form, again, these are some of the most annoying defensive Pokemon of all time, and these are the strongest Pokemon of all time in terms of attack stats. So, you know, can't really say, there's not much else for me to say about these two. So I've been waiting to talk about Fearow Echo for a bit now. I think, again, like Meganium to Meganium Echo, this is like pretty much a really massive improvement. To be fair, I'm happy Fearow Echo managed to work out despite the fact that it was generally locked to having the same BST as Fearow at 442. So you really just had to, at this point, you don't get a lot to work with. So you kind of just have to min-max everything. 112 attack, 110 speed, and the rest of the stats are pretty bad. So yeah, like, this is all you could really do to make Fearow a much better Pokemon. This is a dark fighting typing, so, you know, offensively is a lot more threatening than normal flying. Of course, Fearow has never really seen viability in any serious tier, and to be fair, before, like, again, DBBZ is a very fun tier, but, you know, like, any major tier, not even PU, like, Fearow has never seen the light of day in any of those tiers realistically. Maybe in Gen 2, I don't know, or even Gen 1, like, again, that was Fearow's peak when there was hardly any mons in the game. But regardless, dark fighting typing has Define as an ability, but is all about the hidden ability that this thing has access to, which is adaptability. Now, it makes this thing a pretty, it makes it a menace to society, basically. You have high jump kick as your main stab option, and obviously with adaptability boost, that goes up to 260 base power, so it's pretty strong. You have crunch as well as your stab, and to be fair, you don't get knockoff, and I'm kind of happy it doesn't get knockoff. Would have been it would have been a lot harder to wall if it did, but you know, you have U-turn as well to pivot out, and then in terms of the last move, if you're not going the choice set, Sucker Punch does make the most sense. But typically in Chaos UU, this is used as a choice bander. So essentially what it does in the last slot, it does have a interesting move from Pokemon Infinity called Ambush, which is a dark type version of Fake Out. Now, again, this is a weak ass move, but when you take adaptability into account, that 2x boost instead of 1.5, you get 80 base power plus free priority move. Which obviously, if you're coming in to revenge kill something, Fearow is going to be pretty good at that because it comes into ambush, and then, you know, to be fair, if you're choice locked, you're gonna have to swap out the next turn, obviously, which could provide your opponent some setup opportunity. But at the same time, they don't know that, so they don't know if you're banded or not. Like, if you're coming into revenge kill a weakened threat. So again, calcs could come into play, but yeah, again, this is a pretty powerful Pokemon to have, and it is quite a controversial Pokemon in Chaos UU. Like, when we actually get around to, you know, dealing with that tier seriously, you know, this is one of the Pokemon that we've said that, oh, this might be a UUBL Pokemon because it just hits too hard. The only things that are really switching in are fairy types, and even then, all fairy type wants to be taken adaptability, stab, high jump kick. At the end of the day, resistances basically cancel out the adaptability boost, so you're just back at hitting something with 130 base power in addition to having a pretty decent attack stat of 112. So yeah, overall, Fearow Echo is a menace in Chaos UU, very dangerous Pokemon, and definitely one of the best Echo regional variants that we're going to be covering in this video. Here's another Pokemon that we've spent a video talking about in the past. We got Garbodor Echo here, and in terms of improvement, the Garbodor Echo is chilling in Chaos OU, so it is a massive improvement over its original form. You have a better defensive typing, more, well, not to say Garbodor's abilities are useless, but to be fair, Weak Armor is quite situational. You're never running Stench really, and then Aftermath really only applies to when you're fainting. So overall, you have more useful abilities on the Echo Garbodor form. Even Magnet Pull, again, is not the best at trapping steals. Most of the steals do carry Earthquake, and your times for weak to that shit, so you're gonna have to be very careful. But Unaware is the main appeal to using Garbodor Echo, especially with its stat spread. Like, this thing is a lot bulkier than regular Garbodor. Massive defense, pretty good special defense stat and a pretty solid HP stat, even higher than regular Garbodor. So you're much more bulkier than the OG Garbodor. And to be fair, this one has always been a decent lower level tier threat, whether it's in RU tiers or NU tiers. Particularly, like, I've been playing a lot of Oras RU recently, and Garbodor does have a decent niche in that tier, from what I've at least built with and seen in some games. But yeah, what does this thing do again? Like, I've gone over in a previous video. It pretty much just has access to everything that it needs. To be fair, you get all the hazards basically other than sticky webs. You get spikes, stealth rock, toxic spikes, you get pivoting with parting shot, you get rapid spin as well, you get knockoff, you get leech seed. It's just the ultimate defensive utility Pokemon. And to be fair, it also gets heal bell as well. Like, this one gets everything, which to be fair is the issue, the main con of Garbodor Echo. Because it gets so much, you never really know what you want it to do. Like, if you're sorting it onto a team, you pretty much have to decide from then and there what sort of role this thing is going to do on your team. Because if you want it to be the rocker, it's going to have to be the rocker. It's not going to be your spinner, it's not going to be your spiker potentially. Again, like, 4 moves is not a lot, especially when you have a lot of moves to do. Like, you want your parting shot to pivot out, getting your teammates effectively. You want spin in case you can't fit removal, but at this point it depends on what sort of team you're making and the sort of roles that like Garbodor can do. But regardless of what you decide to let your Garbodor Echo do, is always going to be able to put in the work in KOSOU 100% of the time, and it is definitely one of my favorite defensive Pokemons to use in this tier. Even though I haven't used it in recent days, again, I've been enjoying the HO fest of weather, darkness, new moon, you know, rain, sun, sand as well. I've been enjoying weather and HO. To be fair, ever since Trick Rock got banned, I've been enjoying weather, because weather was pretty much just the auto loss to Trick Room with Trick Rock in the tier, and I'm just happy that we got that stupid dumbass item out of the way. But yeah, either way, Garbodor Echo, pretty solid Pokemon over its original form. Alright, so we've got Ludicolo Echo here, and to be fair, this one is just kind of weird, because again, Ludicolo has always been a sort of specific Pokemon, like from Gen 3, that is just kind of relying on rain in order to do anything, and outside of that, like, this one is pretty much relegated to the lower tiers. But at this point, Ludicolo Echo kind of does the same thing. It has dry skin, which is very weather dependent as well. You're gonna either be healing, and you also get water immunity as well, so you know, especially as a fire steel type, that is quite useful. But you also get solar power as well to benefit from sun. But yeah, in terms of stats, they both have the same BST, but this is slightly faster and slightly stronger. It's also quite bulky as well. So overall, in terms of stats, Ludicolo Echo does get the 1-up on regular Ludicolo. But I'll even say in terms of situation, like, this thing can obviously double its speed under rain and do a lot more damage. This thing is kind of stuck with a pretty poor speed tier in terms of chaos viability, and in terms of, like, because this thing is currently in UU, we want to drop it, to be fair. Like, again, this one isn't particularly that crazy, but even in UU, you get a lot of access to better sun sweepers, whether that's Mega Delta Frostlass or Lilymon. That thing also gets solar power as well, but is a lot faster, and you know, has a much higher special attack stat. So either way, like, it's just kind of outclassing what it wants to do. But in terms of what it can do, dry skin would probably be the most useful ability to have. But even at the end of the day, like, there's not much reason to use this guy. Like, I guess you could use it as a rocker, or would you lean into the offensive sets more? Like, again, this is not a Pokemon that anyone has considered using whatsoever, but it does get a signature move, which is actually pretty cool. It's called Sizzle Slam, which is 75 base power, 100 accuracy. It burns the target on hitting, and then it destroys the berry / gem. Now, obviously, gems are not available in that dex, so apart from the normal gem, obviously, but the berry destroying thing is probably the most important thing about this. And yeah, like, overall, like, again, this is a pretty average Pokemon like Ludicolo, but even if I was to bring like a rain team in Chaos UU, Ludicolo could get a consideration just because it's still Ludicolo and it can actually do some decent damage. This, on the other hand, I probably would not use this on the Sun team. So yeah, quite an unfortunate reality of it, but in terms of design wise and that, like, it still kind of keeps Ludicolo's identity in terms of like the overall shape of it. It seems like to be a chef or some sort, which you know, I can never really slate the design intention behind this one, but competitively, yeah, there's not much reason to use this guy. Alright, we're on to some big players now in the game of Chaos OU. We got Magnezone Echo, one of the best Pokemon in Chaos OU without a doubt. Sorry, I opened up Google Translate. But regardless, yeah, Magnezone Echo here. Pretty much it has a completely different identity from regular Magnezone. I'm pretty sure they have some similar stats. They both have 130 in their respective best attacking stats, whether that's Echo's 130 attack or Magnezone's 130 special attack. And they're both quite bulky Pokemon. Like, this obviously has a lot less defense, but you do come with a lot more special defense than Magnezone by 15, and they also just share the same speed. So overall, not too much a difference in terms of the base stat total. Again, they have identical BSTs. It's just the stats are arranged differently. So yeah, what is Magnezone Echo's niche in the Chaos OU metagame? Now, this is pretty much the go-to Assault Vest Pokemon in the tier. Grass Steel is one of the best defensive typings in the game. You come out with only 2 weaknesses, a whole load of resistances. You're also immune to powder moves and whatnot. You're also immune to toxic, and you know, like it's just a very solid typing to have. Now again, Mega Milotic, one of the best Mega Evolution in the 10, arguably the best Pokemon in Chaos. So you pretty much ward both of its stabs, and you threaten it for super effective grass coverage, whether that's Horn Leech for maximum damage, or I'm pretty sure this thing gets Wood Hammer as well. But typically it goes Horn Leech on the Assault Vest sets just so it can keep up some additional longevity in addition to Regenerator as well, which does help this mon a lot. As well, because you know you're going to be taking hits continuously on the special side. You can Volt Switch out, which it does get access to, you know, paying homage to its original form, and then you recover 33% of your HP back. So can't really complain. It's just a very easy mon to start onto teams. Defensive typing is pretty solid as well, and there's so many special attackers that are stifled by this Pokemon because you pretty much want to be running fire coverage, or else this mon is not going to die in one hit, even if you're boosted, and then it will do some massive damage back to you as well because it has such a high attack stat. But yeah, typically Horn Leech, Volt Switch, Meteor Mash, and either it runs Earthquake. I don't think it gets Drain Punch, or you run Bullet Punch for priority as well. You get Stab on Bullet Punch here, so you could come in and Revenge Kill something, and it typically is just max HP, max attack with an Adamant Nature. You get pretty solid attack stat 394, or you could just go fully into the special defense and pretty much just not take any damage whatsoever. But yeah, Magnezone Echo, pretty solid Pokemon in Chaos OU. In terms of Magnezone's place in Chaos formats, again, this one is not seeing the light of day in OU whatsoever. Equilibria just kind of cucks this one every single time it's in. But it's hard to say if this thing would even have a niche in Chaos UU at the moment. Magnezone is just one of those Pokemon that, you know, like the higher the power level format goes, the more it just really struggles. And to be fair, Trapping Steels has never really been a solid niche, like at least in the Chaos formats. And you know, as the gens go on, it's just harder for Magnezone's Trapping niche to even be relevant anymore, especially in formats without hidden power. Of course, Chaos doesn't have to worry about that, for example, but you know, like in Gen 9, Magnezone is not trapping any like steals other than like Corviknight and Goldengo to a certain extent. But you know, things like Heatran, you used to be able to beat Heatran way back in the day. Like HP ground being chipped, like you'd pretty much just kill it. But obviously you can't Oko Heatran in one hit, and then obviously it has Earth Power to nuke you. But yeah, regardless, Magnezone Echo is a pretty good Pokemon, and yeah, is one of the best in Chaos OU. Next up, we got Muk, and Muk honestly is an interesting Pokemon because it's one of the few Pokemon that have like 4 or 3 Pokemon forms on the Chaos format. You have Delta Muk from Insurgents, you have a Alolan Muk from obviously the mainline games, then you have Echo Muk, which obviously we're going to be discussing in this video. Again, Muk is not a good Pokemon by any means, but you know, we're going to be covering its Echo form here. As you can see, there's also another mon next to it, which we'll be getting onto soon. But let's compare Echo Muk versus Muk for a quick second here. Both have the same BST of 500. This is a Rock Poison typing now. It almost has the same stats pretty much. Like you have the same, well, this has 5 more attack, this has a lot more defense, and this has much less special defense. You're also slower than regular Muk, but to be fair, you come out with worse defensive typing. Having that rock typing added onto poison just gives you, you lose your fighting resist, and you gain a times 4 weakness to ground, for example. You also become weak to steel. Like rock probably is not helping poison in any way whatsoever, but regardless of that though, let's see what abilities it has access to. Now it has Stench and Flare Boost. Flare Boost is quite an interesting ability to give a Pokemon like this, but to be fair, unlike regular Muk, which doesn't really have a special attack stat, this does have a usable special attack stat of 90, so you could arguably get away with running Flare Boost, Flame Orb. But again, this one has no niche in Chaos UU or OU, so it's just me theory crafting here realistically. But in terms of the special moves it has access to, doesn't really get much, to be fair. Sludge Wave, Ancient Power, Earth Power, again, this is another special attacking rock type like Echo Venusaur that does not get access to any good special rock moves. No Power Gem, no Meteor Beam, so you know you're kind of struggling in that front. But Earth Power is probably saving this thing. You know, you can hit steel types for super effective damage, can't really complain there. You also have Scald to hit ground types for super effective damage as well. And then you could actually end up being a pretty decent special attacker. But again, 40 speed is doing you no favors, and that defensive typing is completely garbage. So yeah, Muk Echo versus Muk. It's hard for me to even say what one is better. I think they're just the same level of just bad, to be honest. But the more interesting Pokemon to be speaking about in terms of regional variants here is Uzma, which is the evolution of Echo Muk. And I was surprised that Echo Muk got evolution, but this one is pretty powerful, to be honest. Despite the fact that it arguably has the most infamous defensive typing of all time of Fire Rock, you can't really take away the fact that it has a massive attack style 134, pretty solid speed with 96, and actual good HP and defense stat. To be fair, don't be looking at the special defense stat. Again, this thing is not taking special attacks well whatsoever. But at this point, you're using this as a main attack, and this thing is in Chaos UU currently, so it's obviously gotten past its pretty bad defensive typing and lands itself a niche in Chaos UU. In terms of its abilities, it has Iron Fist plus Intimidate, but Iron Fist is the more useful ability, because I forgot to mention that this Echo line of Muk have access to a signature move called Tar Tantrum. Now, Tar Tantrum, as you can see, 115 base power, 95% accuracy, with a 30% chance to lower speed by 1. To be fair, the secondary effect is not particularly too important. The damage is obviously very important. You have a pretty close to a completely accurate rock type move, which is a lot stronger than Stone Edge, and pretty much stronger than Diamond Storm and pretty much any other physical rock move. I think the only rock moves that are stronger than this are Head Smash and Rock Wrecker, which again, one of those is a signature move. But yeah, Tar Tantrum also has a punch. It counts as a punching move, so obviously that is boosted by Iron Fist, so that comes out being stronger than I don't even know if that's stronger than Head Smash or not. I really can't be bothered to do the maths. Like, my head is hurting, bros. But yeah, in terms of that, like, since you actually have a respectable speed tier, this is actually a pretty solid offensive mon to have on your team, whether you want to go Choice Band or Life Orb or even Z Move. Again, like, if you see any offensive Pokemon, you could either Z move it, or you just run a Life Orb or any other item that can help out. Obviously, it is weak to rock, so Heavy Duty Boots is also a viable item to have on it as well. In terms of the shiny is also pretty nice as well. Very nice to look at in terms of the colors. But in terms of the moves that has access to, just give it Edgequake, Close Combat, can't really complain. In terms of Fire Stab, it doesn't really get any good Fire Stab. Like, Fire Punch is the best you're getting, but I don't even think it needs Fire Stab. At most, if you run Fire Stab, run a Flame Charge, so you can actually get the benefits of your much better speed to, like, get into what's that, 480. You get to 480 speed after a Flame Charge, so you know you're doing a lot of damage there as well. And yeah, just, well, to be fair, you wouldn't be running Flame Orb Choice Band, Flame Charge Choice Band, but Life Orb, Iron Fist, Tar Tantrum, Earthquake CC, this pretty much hits everything and kills UU, and it's going to be doing a lot of damage. Well, the only thing this doesn't actually hit is Manacra Plated, but there's so many Pokemon that Manacra Plated walls, like, we don't even have to speak about it. Generally, everything else in Chaos UU is going to be quite afraid of this Pokemon because it does so much damage. But yeah, overall, again, Muk Echo isn't anything to write home about, but Uzma is a regional evolution that, you know, is quite strong, to be honest. So yeah, I appreciate it. Alright, as you can see, we got Noctowl Echo and a familiar face in Grimfowl here. We, again, in previous videos, we discussed Grimfowl, and I mentioned the fact that it has No Guard Hypnosis plus Nasty Plot Hurricane as well. So you're always going to have an accurate move. Unfortunately, Sleep has been axed from Chaos OU, so Grimfowl does unfortunately fall into Chaos UU, where hopefully it manages to find some semblance of viability again. But again, this is a Pokemon that has a pretty solid special attack stat, ways of boosting its speed and special attack, and also has No Guard. You know, Dark Flying is also pretty nice, and you have No Guard Hurricane, so I feel like Grimfowl will try and find its place in Chaos UU again. But looking at Noctowl quickly, just to compare the two, because those are the main Pokemon that has a regional variant here. But yeah, Noctowl has never really been a strong Pokemon by any means, but to be fair, its Echo version does make up for that. Obviously, this is not a fully evolved Pokemon, so we're gonna give it some slack in terms of saying it's a bad Pokemon in general. But you know, like say in a hypothetical world we had a Chaos NU or Chaos RU like actually fixed, Noctowl Echo could have been a pretty devastating Pokemon to have, because you still would have had access to No Guard, Sleep in Hypnosis, still have No Guard Hurricane, Dark Pulse, and Nasty Plot, obviously, and you know you have an Eviolite to augment your bulk. So yeah, this could have been a very dangerous Pokemon to have in like any potential Chaos lower tiers, assuming we kept Sleep. But for now, this is an NFE Pokemon, but even as an NFE Pokemon, this is better than Noctowl has ever done in its life. To be fair, Noctowl's peaks were getting banned from PU in like Gen 8 because Tinted Lens Nasty Plot Hurricane was too strong. But, you know, you end up like having a Hurricane that can still miss, but Echo Noctowl doesn't have to worry about that. But yeah, yeah, again, this is an NFE, so there's not much I can really say regarding it. But in terms of the stat spread, even then, you're more offensively inclined than original Noctowl. Again, this has wanted to be like a somewhat defensive sort of Pokemon as in terms of regional birds, but it never really worked out, because even though you have a good HP stat, your Fizz Def is not good at all, and like you just end up being like top heavy on the special side of in terms of tanking things, and then you have pretty frail physical bulk. But yeah, Noctowl Echo basically just takes you know, offense into the next level. You share the same speed 10. Again, this is an NFE, so you can run Eviolite, and you end up just being a lot more bulky than Noctowl could ever be on the physical side. But overall, Grimfile has been one of my favorite Pokemon to use in Chaos OU. Again, I'm quite sad about the sleep ban, but it was necessary because this guy was contributing to it. So, you know, that is a pretty good legacy you're leaving on one of the strongest competitive Pokemon formats of all time. Alright guys, we only got a few more regional forms to go over, but if you guys are still enjoying the video, please let me know down below and tell me so far what your favorite regional variant I've talked about in this video was. But now we're going to be looking at Skullkraken, and you're probably seeing, oh, Shelder Echo. So Shelder Echo evolves into Skullkraken, so this is basically the Echo version of Cloyster. But in terms, well, to be fair, I don't think comparing Cloyster and Skullkraken is probably the best thing I could do, because they do very, very different things. As you can see, Cloyster again comes equipped with that massive defense stat of 180, but Cloyster since Generation 5 has been a Shell Smash merchant, and you know, this is a mon that was banned in Gen 5 OU. This mon is chilling in Gen 6 UU. Again, I think this thing is also Gen 7 UU, or is RU. I don't think it's anything lower than that. And overall, Cloyster has been a threatening with set of Wincon for many generations now. But Skullkraken decides to, you know, be like, well, I'm just going to become a defensive Pokemon 100%. There's no sweeping for me. I don't have the speed tier, nor do I have the offensive stats to really do it. So yeah, I'm going to become a Water Steel type and have pretty balanced defenses. So yeah, 123 defense and 110 special defense with 80 HP. This is more bulkier than Cloyster could ever ask for. In terms of if you go pound for pound, who's bulkier, max HP, max defense Cloyster, or max HP, max defense Skullkraken, I couldn't tell you. Maybe I'll show the calcs on the screen, but again, I will probably be double checking after this video. But yeah, this is typically just going to be your defensive version of Cloyster. You come equipped with a much better type in a Water Steel, so you have a lot more bulk. In terms of recovery, you don't get that, so, you know, cope. But in terms of that, you do get access to spikes, T-spikes. You don't get Stealth Rock though, which I actually do like that you don't keep Stealth Rock. You do kind of keep Cloyster's identity, because Cloyster also has access to both T-spikes and regular spikes. They pretty much have pretty similar move pools. It's just that you come equipped with a much better defensive type. You're not Stealth Rock weak, you're Stealth Rock resistant, and though you're still weak to fighting, you know, you don't have as many weaknesses as Cloyster. Again, you're still a water type that's not resistant fire, but with this bulk, you probably don't really care too much about that, especially due to the fact that Cloyster has no special defense, and you actually have a usable special defense stat. But yeah, in terms of the moves I'd run, Scald, you can't really go wrong with Scald, and that probably is the biggest difference between Skullkraken and Cloyster, as, you know, defensive water types, if you want to play Cloyster that way. Cloyster doesn't get Scald because it's an ice type, so you get Scald on Skullkraken. You have Rapid Spin as well, so it depends on if you want to make it a Rapid Spinner. Scald, Spikes, you get access to Teleport, which I think is pretty big for a defensive Pokemon like this. You can pivot in and pivot out, getting your Wall Breakers. Then the last move, tough for me to say. I don't think this thing gets Knockoff, so that's kind of annoying. Could go Gyro Ball to hit on the physical side. You do have equal offensive stats, so yeah, just to get that steel damage on top. Or you could go Heavy Slam. I'm pretty sure this finger looks big as hell, so I'm assuming it's heavy as fuck. So yeah, we'll probably just a steel move there, or maybe something else that seems a bit more useful. Again, I don't know, but Could go Toxic as well, but you're going to be spreading the Scald burns most of the time, so it might be a waste of a move slot. And then, yeah, either go Fizz Death or Spadef. Very simple. There's not, like, Skull Kraken is a pretty simple defensive Pokemon, and I think it's going to have a pretty good time in Chaos UU. Some people have even brought Skull Kraken into OU because it is just that bulky, has the pivoting, has the hazard game as well. So, yeah, overall, I didn't even look at its abilities. Again, its abilities aren't anything too crazy, but Iron Barbs is quite useful, especially if you want to use this as a physically defensive wall. Be taking some hits quite well. You have Iron Barbs plus Rocky Helmet. This is a very annoying Pokemon to deal with. But yeah, overall, Skull Kraken is a nice take on a defensive version of Cloyster, which has a superior defensive typing and still a lot of the same moves plus more that make Cloyster even good as a defensive Pokemon, like you know, Hazards, for example. Unfortunately, it's quite sad of me to say that Tangrowth's Echo form is probably like, there's 3 Tangrowths here. We have the OG Tangrowth, we have Echo Tangrowth, and Delta Tangrowth from Insurgents, of course. And to be fair, this one is probably the worst out of the 3 here. To be fair, I don't think anyone's experimented with Tangrowth at all. It could have some potential in Chaos UU. Really depends on how that tier shapes up to be. And even Delta Tangrowth with the ground fighting typing with Dry Skin, getting that water immunity is quite helpful as well. But they have the same stat spread because it's the Delta Pokemon. But in terms of Echo Tangrowth, this completely just changes the script on how Tangrowth is in general. You come with an electric steel typing with 2 pretty useful abilities that grant an electric immunity anyway. You get Volt Absorb to heal you, Lightning Rod to boost your special attack, then you get Static to punish contact Pokemon as well. To be fair, this thing is a lot faster as well. Like, these have base 50 speed, this has 92 base speed. It's tough for me to say what this thing's role is supposed to be be honest. Like, are you gonna be a fast special attacker? Because like, I'm looking at the coverage options and I'm just like, this thing is kind of just stuck with electric and... Oh, let me not speak too soon. Let me not speak too soon, you man. Let me not speak. Because you actually do have coverage. So I'm sorry, Echo Tangrowth, I did not know your game like that. But yeah, you get dual stab, you have Energy Ball to hit. To be fair, what the fuck do I need Energy Ball for, bro? You have Heat Wave to hit Steel types. The only thing that you're probably struggling against is obviously hitting Dragons. But again, you still have Flash Cannon to hit Dragons. But yeah, I believe this thing's role is basically just being a special attacker, to be fair, which is actually somewhat bulky. 110 HP, 107 defense. The special defense is somewhat lacking, but it's not the end of the world, especially with that HP stat. So it's not too bad. I guess this is just a special attacker. I don't know if it would have any niche in Chaos UU by any means, but it's definitely a one that you kind of have to respect in the damage department. And even for me, the defensive typing is quite nice as well. So I wouldn't even know where to even place this in, like, let's say Scarlet and Violet, for example. And I can't really gauge off Tangrowth either because that's not an SV either. So I don't know. Again, I don't really play the usage-based tiers in Gen 9, so it's tough for me to call. I wouldn't even say this thing is RU. Maybe NU, PU, I really don't know. But, like, this thing could actually be a menace. That electric immunity for boosting special attack would be useful for blocking Volt Switches, for example. And, yeah, it is still bulky on the physical side, so it would be hard to take down. In terms of... I don't think it gets recovery. Oh, it does get recover. Ooh. Again, I'm speaking too soon regarding this guy. I can't lie to you, man. But yeah, it does have Calm Mind recovery. Hey, this thing could actually be quite a respectable win con. You know, like, I'm not gonna sleep on Echo Tangrowth. I think this one will actually be not too bad. And we've moved on to the final Pokemon we're going to be discussing, or the final 2 Pokemon we'll be discussing for today's video. I'm putting them together because they evolve from the same Pokemon. As you can see, this is an Echo Gloom, and as you know, regular Gloom evolves into 2 possible Pokemon, either Vileplume with the Leaf Stone, from what I remember, or Blossom with the Sunstone. Now, I don't know how Gloom Echo evolves into either Valdoom or Mortossum in Pokemon Infinity. I don't really care. But as you can see, this is the Vileplume representation, and this is the Blossom representation. So either way, let us look at Valdoom first, because, you know, Vileplume was the original evolution in the original 151. So yeah, what does Valdoom have access to? This thing did have Spore before we banned Sleep, so yeah, that's quite an unfortunate reality that we're living in right now. But again, this is a poison ghost typing with the ability Levitate, so this is basically just a defensive version of Gengar. Now, to be fair, let me actually compare the 2. Again, like, they're not too comparable as Pokemon together, but I might as well just kind of show the differences between the 2, like, compare them together because they are, you know, inspirations of one another, you know. So yeah, let's look at Valdoom versus Vileplume here. Ghost Poison with the Levitate type, and this again, like I said, is Larpin as pre-Gen 7 Gengar, and it's quite bulky, a lot bulkier than Vileplume, to be fair. Higher defense, higher HP, less special defense, so you're bulkier physically, but Vileplume is bulkier especially, but you're also faster at base 60 speed. So in terms of what Valdoom can do, it's a shame that you can't run Spore Hex now, but you do get access to Stun Spore. So you could spread a status that way. You also just get Wisp, which I'd probably recommend. If a bulky ghost has Wisp, you use Wisp. That is just the laws of the world, innit? But yeah, Wisp Hex, it does get Moonlight. It doesn't get Strength Up like Vileplume, but, you know, it still just gets a recovery move, which is all we could really ask for at this point. And then you also have Sludge Bomb as well. Like, you kind of just do what Petra does to a certain extent, but if this existed in Chaos, in SVOU, would this displace Petra? You have an argument to make that it could, but at the same time, Petron's speed tier is quite nice in SVOU because you're faster than Goldengo and you're faster than Great Tusk, so you can get a fast parting shot out. This doesn't get any pivoting move, and it's also slower, so like there's a give and take, but I feel like most people would lean towards Petron because it still has a much more a higher, what do you call it, defense stat, in addition to Malignant Chain being a funny move, plus the synergy with the ability Poison Puppeteer. But this would not be a bad slouch by any means. I think this would be a decent alternative, though. Petron will probably be more preferred over Valdoom here. And as you can see, it pretty much just more leans into its defensive attributes compared to Vileplume here, which, to be fair, in the lower tiers, Vileplume is a pretty solid defensive threat, but at the same time, you also have access to Chlorophyll, which means that you're quite your offensive threat under Sun as well in the lower tiers as well. So yeah, again, I don't like comparing the two together because they're fulfilling different roles, but at the end of the day, Vileplume is a defensive ghost type, has Levitate to circumvent his ground weakness, and it has higher defense. So in terms of as a Fizz Def Mon, yeah, Valdoom is better. But moving on to Mortossum and Blossom, again, Mortossum has been used as a Quiver Dance Pokemon, and to be fair, it is basically following in Blossom's footsteps. Blossom in the lower tiers has been, at least since it got Quiver Dance, been a Quiver Dance Wincon, but there's been other tiers where it's leaned into its defensive attributes as well as a pure grass type. As you can see by the stat spread, it has pretty even defenses, 95 defense versus 100 SPDF with 75 HP. To be fair, Mortossum could do the same. It has equal defenses and 90 HP, but when you're actually gifted Quiver Dance with a pretty solid speed tier, again, Ghost Fairy is not the worst defensive typing in the world, but you know, you might as well just lean into the offense here with Quiver Dance, especially when you have the speed tier to do so. I'd even check out the shinies for these guys. They're whatever to me, to be fair. They kind of have similar coloring, but yeah, in terms of Quiver Dance, I've seen Moonblast, Shadow Ball. This is basically Flutter Mane, set up Flutter Mane at this point. To be fair, I had an easier time when Sleep Powder was here, so you could actually just Sleep Powder your checks, start Quiver Dancing, kind of exactly what Blossom does in the lower tiers. But yeah, you have a better dual stab, you have a much better defensive typing and offensive typing, and in terms of the last move, it was Moonlight, because this thing does get recovery as well. You could also just go Nasty Plot, but Quiver Dance is more useful because you get that boost to your special defense in addition to a speed boost as well, and then you can just manage to outspeed everything. But yeah, Nasty Plot could be a possibility as well, and this is also solidly a UU Pokemon just like Valdoom as well in Chaos UU. But yeah, Moonlight, you also have I don't even know what else this thing can run. Again, like I said, you could lean into its defensive attributes a little bit. You get Draining Kiss, so you could be a bulky Draining Kiss Pokemon. You get Knockoff, and then what do you call it? You also have Nightshade as well. But yeah, that is it for Mortossum, to be fair, and that is it for covering all of the Pokemon Infinity regional variants. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know down below as well your feeling in terms of what your favorite regional variant is, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.